The damp seeped through my thin jacket the moment I stepped onto the veranda. Blackwood felt less like a home and more like an accusation lately, its once grand facade puckered with cracks like old scar tissue. I remembered chasing moth-winged butterflies across these lawns as a boy. And now the overgrown grass whispered secrets against my shins, smelling of mildew beneath the feeble June sunshine. Dust motes swam in the angled light, piercing the hallway windows. Thick as sediment stirred from a riverbed. Routine was my anchor. Check the east parlor's swollen windowsills for damp, inventory moth-eaten draperies. A single silver picture frame sat crooked on the mantel. Strange. I'd polished it straight yesterday. A metallic tang clung to the air near the servants' staircase, old copper pipes weeping into stone. It shouldn't taste so sharp, like biting down on tinfoil. A cold slid down the banister under my palm, despite the stifling air elsewhere. Upstairs, my bedroom door stood slightly ajar. Not unusual, but the gap felt wider today. Inside, my quilt lay smooth except for a single depression near the footboard, shaped almost like someone sitting vigil. My fingers brushed the linen. It felt colder there, not cold, absorbent, like the stillness after a long-held breath. I locked the door that night. The latch clicked far too softly. A silence grew tactile in Blackwood, a pressure built behind my ear canals, dense as wet clay. I'd be reading in the library when the temperature would plunge, frosting my exhales with phantom condensation. No fireplace here. Just those damnable oil portraits staring with flat, unhurried judgment. Once, a putrid sweetness coiled through the west corridor, overripe peaches left rotting in an unseen drawer. Yet opening cupboards revealed only bone-dry wood and porcelain voids. At dusk yesterday, the grandfather clock's pendulum froze mid-swing, hanging dead in its glass coffin while the mantel clock downstairs chimed 7. 7. They hadn't chimed since grandfather died. I didn't wind them. My own hands began to unsettle me. Reaching for a teacup, they'd tremble like ancient machinery grinding toward a halt. I'd catch my reflection in the grimy ballroom mirrors, shadows pooling beneath my eyes. Darker than exhaustion explained. Once, while scraping lichen off the conservatory glass, I heard soft weeping behind me. The sound dissolved before I turned. Not weeping, sharpening knives, or was it pages turning? The ledger book lay open on the kitchen table later, entries bleeding rust-colored ink across my precise columns. I'd written them, hadn't I? My tea tasted salty that afternoon, or perhaps it was my own lips. The nursery. Door creaked on unused hinges when I finally confronted it. Sunlight stabbed through broken slats in the shutters, illuminating dancing dust. And the dollhouse, miniature Blackwood, painstakingly crafted by my sister before the fire. Its charred attic window lay scattered in splinters. Hadn't that window been intact yesterday? I lifted the roof section, throat tight. Something gleamed inside the master bedroom. Not glass, but tiny silver. Picture frame matching the real one downstairs. It held a scrap torn from our family Bible, Ezekiel 36:26. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. The air tasted suddenly sour. Like bile and ash, grandfather's study door was locked. Always had been. Yet that evening it yawned open, darkness within smelling of sour wool and decaying paper. Inside, the broken shutter layered everything in stripes of twilight and choking shadow. His mahogany desk sat pristine except for an uncovered magnifying glass. Beneath its warped lens lay a sepia photograph I'd never seen. Mother, younger than I remembered, clutching a bundled blanket outside the smoldering nursery wing. Father stood rigid beside her, his hand clutching her shoulder too tightly. Something lay at their feet, a bundle of sticks. My chest compressed. Cricket stumps, mine. From the match the day before the fire. Why the pressure in my ears became a roar, blood, or distant flames. Turning, I glimpsed movement in the hallway mirror, a flicker of gray fabric vanishing into the darkened passage. My reflection's mouth tightened, but I hadn't moved. My reflection smiled. Now the lamp flickers feeble yellow in my trembling hand. Shadows thicken behind the door. They whisper things at the edge of my hearing. My name or hers, something scrapes against the threshold wood, slow, deliberate, like a fingernail. I press against the wall. Cold bleeds through the plaster. If the house remembers everything, then why can't I recall pushing her pram toward the nursery that afternoon? The lamp gutters. Darkness swallows the mirror. But outside the open window, dawn breaks pale and silent over Blackwood. While waiting, stone never forgets, and flesh remembers only what the heart permits. A floorboard groans behind me, close now, always so close.